And we go to Rome. Silvia Boccardi is a journalist and founder of the Flares Collective. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24. You're just back from Afghanistan. Tell us, you're going to tell us in a little bit about that. But first, I want your reaction to what we just heard there from our correspondent, Pierre Benazet.
Well, I think it's extremely interesting that this is happening at this moment, and this meeting that happened today exposes a major contradiction. So Europe wants to manage migration and engage with the authorities controlling Afghanistan, while at the same time the Taliban continues to impose severe restrictions on especially women's rights, education, and public life. So the question is not whether contact exist between Europe or any other countries in the world and the Taliban. They already do. The question is whether engagement can help ordinary Afghans without legitimizing policies that much of the world finds correctly unacceptable.
Yeah, because the EU has a mission in Kabul. It's to run traffic for humanitarian affairs. Is it okay to have that contact with Afghanistan, but not the one of having this Taliban delegation in Brussels to talk about forced repatriations?
Well, it's very difficult to imagine, and not my role to say, but of course, I mean, the idea of not having any contacts is difficult. The most important way is how are we going to have this contact? Of course, I mean, the repatriation is a different. It's a topic because, like, any person that is being returned today goes back to a country where his future or her future is extremely uncertain. And of course, for people that have worked in the past with foreign organization, international forces, who are journalists or work for civil society groups or human rights organization, of course, may still fear retaliation or discrimination. And for everybody else they're still going back to a country where, I mean, unemployment is extremely high and basic services are under enormous pressure. So the humanitarian and economic situation is still devastating in any case for whoever goes back to Afghanistan at the moment.
So it's been nearly 5 years since the Taliban took back Kabul. Silvia Boccardi, tell us where you went in Afghanistan.
So I've been to Kabul, to Lashkargah in the south, and in the north to Annaba. I've been visiting hospitals from this NGO, Emergency, an Italian NGO who still works in the country. And through that, I've been able to speak to people and especially women. I had the possibility to interview women who still work as doctors, as nurses, and also who are getting into this hospital as patients. So everyone is telling me in Afghanistan that the country is much more safer now because, of course, compared to the years of the war, the country is safer. There are fewer bombings, fewer large-scale attacks, fewer mass casualties events. But safety has not translated into prosperity. So after 2021, much of the international funding that sustained Afghanistan's in the past years has disappeared. And when the system collapsed, millions of people were pushed into poverty. So the kind of wounds that the hospital sees today are, or injuries that the doctor sees are linked to social and economical pressures. So family disputes, or violence, desperation in the streets, people that fight each other for food, and of course tensions created by unemployment or lack of opportunity. So it's a very different Afghanistan.
And you say that at those hospitals there are still female staff.
Well, yes, because the laws that the Taliban passed as obliged women to stop studying after their sixth grade, but the people that studied before, they still can work in the hospitals. Of course, it's a gray zone, and it's very difficult to understand, when the Taliban allows this and when they don't. But it's very important for women to be able to work still today, because, of course, many women patients can only be touched by women. So the fear that most NGOs have right now is that when the female doctors and nurses won't be able to work anymore, the problem is that there won't be any people that will be able to cure and to take care of women patients. So that's a very difficult thing to watch at the moment in Afghanistan.
What was it like? Again, you say you went to the north and to the south. What was the difference? Tell us.
Well, Kabul is, of course, a capital. So I arrived during Eid. It's a festivity for Muslim people, and it was very, very militarized during that time. And I mean, the difference is, of course, as in any country in the world, the capital versus the rural areas, and the kind of people that you see around walking in the streets are different. I mean, of course, in the south and in the north, I could see, for instance, women were much more covered up, because that's not only a religious issue and a legal issue; it's also a cultural issue. While when I got back to, I remember, I mean, when I traveled to Lashkargah in the south, and then I got back to Kabul, I remember saying, it looks like New York here. Because, of course, I mean, you could see women in the streets, and some of these women, sometimes they could show their faces and maybe even put some makeup on. And of course, it's completely different from what you see in rural areas, in the north, or in the mountains, or in the desert.
And when you were in the south, did you feel the tensions with neighboring Pakistan? You talked about it now being a time of peace, but was that something that people talked about?
Not much. To be honest, like the tension that you feel is mostly for people to, when they talk to you, they know that they're being controlled. They know that the news that someone from a Western country is in the village, or I mean is around asking questions. Of course, people are just like a bit scared of what they're going to face if they talk to you, of course. So and that's, I think, I mean, it's the role of the journalist, right, to protect their sources. So I got many stories, and most of the stories are going to be anonymous, because most of the people are scared to tell what they think in public.
There are influencers here in France who've gone to Afghanistan and go on social media and say, "Come to Afghanistan, it's great." What would you say in answer to that?
Well, I've seen many. I've heard of many. I haven't seen it in the streets, but I've heard of many people that are traveling now to Afghanistan. And in the end, it's always through the Taliban government, because Afghanistan is still a very possibly dangerous country, because of what we've said, right? Because of hunger, because of unemployment, because of tensions. So people who are actually traveling through Afghanistan, most of the time they're traveling through companies that are affiliated to the Taliban, to the government. And in that way, of course, you're going to see what they want you to see. And of course, you're going to tell what they want you to tell. So I think it's important for people to understand the difference between influencers and journalists, and the kind of job that we do.
One final question for you, Silvia Boccardi. Those women, those girls that can't go to school anymore, what are they doing?
Nothing. Well, I've spoken to mothers and fathers who are very worried about the future of their daughters. Some who have the possibility, they put them in madrasa, so in Islamic school. And of course, like everything in Afghanistan, there are lots of grays, right? Not everything is black and white. So most of these madrasas, they don't only teach the Islamic subjects, but they are open to teach also other subjects, so that when the Taliban will come and the government officials will come and check, they'll be studying just Islamic school subjects, but in real life, they actually teach math, for instance, or English, or other subjects that at the moment are banned for women after 12 years old. So there are ways of going around the rules, and Afghan peoples and Afghan women are very smart, and of course they're going to find those ways. But those who cannot afford the school because they're private, well, they're just at home, getting married and having kids, unfortunately.
Silvia Boccardi, so many thanks for being with us from Rome.
Thank you for inviting me.